What if the boundary between the physical world and the invisible world was never real? What if the separation you were taught to believe in, the material here, the spiritual somewhere else, was nothing but a convenient story to keep you blind to the actual structure of existence? And what if buried inside your own biology there existed a mechanism designed not to separate these worlds, but to merge them? Most people go their entire lives never noticing it, never questioning why this tiny organ at the center of the brain behaves unlike anything else in the human body. But once you understand its nature, you understand why the ancients guarded this secret, why modern institutions erased it, and why every mystic, philosopher, and awakened individual eventually points to the same location: the pineal gland. You've heard it called the third eye. You've heard it described as spiritual symbolism. But what you were never told is that this organ is not symbolic. It is literal. It is the interface between realms. It is the bridge between dimensions. It is biological evidence that consciousness is not trapped inside the skull. It is a portal, subtle, quiet, ignored but unbelievably powerful, linking the physical human to the non-physical field that underlies reality. Descartes called it the seat of the soul, not because he was poetic, but because he recognized the pineal gland behaves unlike any physical structure we know, and everything about it defies the idea that the human experience is confined to matter alone. The brain itself is divided into two hemispheres, one dedicated to logic, structure, linear thinking, and one dedicated to intuition, creativity, imagination. The pineal gland sits exactly between them, not by accident, but by design, as if reality placed a bridge in the one location that connects rational perception to intuitive perception. The physical to the non-physical, the seen to the unseen, the world you touch to the world you sense. In ancient traditions, this bridge was honored. In modern society, it is ignored, ridiculed, and suppressed. And the result is that most people walk through their lives with their primary perception system asleep. Imagine there is a lens inside you capable of perceiving a different layer of reality. A lens that, when activated, allows you to sense patterns, energies, emotional signatures, intuitive truths, and subtle forms of information that the ordinary senses miss. Imagine you had this ability since birth, but it was gradually numbed by overstimulation, noise, constant distraction, and a worldview that mocked anything it could not measure. But this ability never left you. It simply went dormant. That lens is the pineal gland, and the perception it unlocks is what people call clairvoyance. Clairvoyance does not mean predicting the future like some dramatic movie scene. It means perceiving reality without the filters that ordinary perception imposes. It means seeing connections before the mind analyzes them. It means recognizing truth without debate. It means accessing the layer of information that exists beneath language, beneath thought, beneath logic. And it is something every human can develop, because it is not a gift. It is a function of consciousness. Every living thing is connected, not metaphorically, but literally through the field that underlies physical existence. You sense this field constantly. You feel when something is off, when someone is hiding something, when a decision feels wrong even if it looks right. You feel energy in a room shift before anything happens physically. You feel people's intentions without hearing their words. You catch patterns your mind cannot articulate. This is clairvoyance at its root. It is perception, that bypasses the five senses and interacts directly with the informational layer of reality. When the pineal gland is active, this perception becomes clearer, sharper, more reliable. You begin to understand people without them speaking. You begin to see what is hidden, not because you are imagining things, but because the boundary between the spiritual and physical dissolves. Reality becomes more transparent. But how do we activate this perception? How do we awaken the system that has been deliberately silenced by modern living? To understand that, you must understand the deeper mechanics of the pineal gland. The pineal gland contains photoreceptors, cells similar to those found in the eyes, yet it is buried in darkness deep inside the brain. Why would an inner organ need receptors for light? Because it does not respond only to physical light, but to electromagnetic and energetic signals from the environment. It is your internal antenna, tuned to frequencies beyond the visible spectrum. This is why ancient cultures place so much importance on the third eye chakra, located between the eyebrows. They understood that there was a metaphysical layer to human perception, and that the pineal gland was the biological expression of that metaphysical gateway. Activating this gland changes how you perceive the world. Meditation focused on the space between the eyebrows is not superstition. It stimulates the neural pathway connected to the gland. Controlled breathing synchronizes the left and right hemispheres of the brain, preparing the system for expanded perception. Stillness calms the logical mind enough for intuitive information to rise to the surface. Breathwork, visualization. All of these practices were created long before modern science. Yet they align perfectly with what neuroscience now understands about brain coherence and perception. When this gland begins to awaken, you experience moments that feel like intuition, but are actually direct perception. You sense subtle energies in others. You perceive information before it becomes physical. You begin to understand the emotional structures behind people's words. You begin to feel the truth behind illusions. You begin to see the architecture of reality, not just its surface. And here is the deeper truth. Clairvoyance is not about seeing the invisible. It is about perceiving the real. Most people see only the external layer of reality, a layer filtered, compressed, and stripped of depth. Clairvoyance reveals the layer beneath it, the layer where intention, energy, emotion, and consciousness interact long before anything becomes physical. This is why developing this ability brings clarity, confidence, and alignment. You stop second-guessing yourself. You stop making decisions based on fear. You stop living reactive to the world and start living responsive to your deeper intelligence. You begin to trust your perception because it is no longer limited to the physical world alone. Modern life, however, numbs this ability. Information overload floods the brain with noise. Technology keeps the mind overstimulated. Stress keeps the nervous system in survival mode. Distraction pulls attention outward. And the result is a humanity that has forgotten how to see. But perception can be reclaimed. It begins with stillness. Meditation on the third eye directs your awareness inward, amplifying the neural sensitivity of the pineal gland. Visualization, such as imagining a light or an opening in the center of the forehead, creates a neurological imprint that strengthens the pathway between awareness and the gland. Breathwork balances the hemispheres, allowing intuitive perception to rise unhindered. Mindfulness teaches the mind to observe without interference. Even sunlight, taken in brief and safe doses, stimulates the gland's natural rhythms. Diet plays a role too, not because of mystical beliefs, but because the pineal gland calcifies under stress, poor nutrition, and exposure to certain environmental chemicals. Foods rich in antioxidants and minerals support its health. But the most important factor is attention. What you pay attention to expands in your perception. When you consistently bring awareness to the space between your eyebrows, you strengthen the neural pathway that connects conscious awareness to the pineal gland. With time, perception sharpens. Subtle information becomes clearer. Intuition becomes undeniable. As clairvoyance develops, you begin to perceive the world differently. You sense the emotions of others more acutely, not to absorb them, but to understand them. You notice patterns in your life that were invisible before. You recognize synchronicities, not as coincidences, but as communication from the deeper structure of reality. Decisions become easier because you are no longer choosing through fear, but through clarity. You feel more connected, not to abstract spirituality, but to the living mechanics of the universe. In a world built on distraction, awakening your perception is one of the most powerful acts of reclaiming your humanity. Modern society worships logic and dismisses intuition, but intuition is not irrational. It is perception without the delay of thought. It is intelligence in its purest form. It is consciousness navigating the field directly. And the truth is, humanity needs this ability now more than ever. We live in a time when information is abundant, but wisdom is rare. When noise is loud, but meaning is silent. When the physical world dominates attention, but the invisible forces that shape it remain ignored. Developing clairvoyance, developing your connection to your deeper perception, brings your humanity back into balance. It restores the alignment between mind and intuition, between the brain and the field, between the physical and the non-physical. Your third eye is not mystical, it is biological. Clairvoyance is not fantasy, it is perception. And the pineal gland is not symbolic. It is the interface between dimensions of reality that society has taught you to separate. Don't forget to share some love by hitting that like and subscribe button. Let's continue the conversation in the comments. Share your thoughts, opinions, or anything you think could add value to others. Your voice matters. Until next time.
You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me.